Welcome to another episode of Inside York Tech, a podcast featuring students, staff, and alumni of the York County School of Technology.
Welcome to another episode of Inside York Tech. I'm your host, Nick Staub, and if you have the need for speed, you're really going to like today's episode because we are joined by a national motorcycle land speed record holder, Mr. Ron Kesselring. He graduated from York Tech in 1979. He was a member of the Automotive Mechanics program, which is now called Automotive Technology, and he's gone on to some pretty wild exploits in the world of motorcycles. He owns his own custom motorcycle shop called Cafe's Custom Cycles, and as I mentioned, he has multiple land speed records, one of which still stands today. I can't wait to dive in and learn more. Ron, thanks for being here with us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing great as well. I appreciate you being with us. I sort of gave away the lead there. I mean, you hold multiple land speed records on motorcycles. I want to kind of start with that because that's really what got you on my radar and why you're sitting here today. The two records that I was able to verify on my own. The first that I have here was set in 2011. It was an American Motorcyclist Association Class 1350 MPS VF. That record still stands. So you set a record of 112 miles per hour, I believe, in 2011.
Yes.
The other one I was able to independently verify was also an American Motorcyclist Association Class 1350 APS VF, over 117 miles per hour, August 2014. I know that you've been involved in multiple other land speed records. Can you tell me more about some of those other ones?
Actually built motorcycles starting in 2009. We wanted to go out for the 50th anniversary of the Triumph Bonneville. And we put one together, a 1964 Triumph, and I had one of my mechanics ride it because that was his dream. And we wound up setting a record out there then. I think it was 114 miles an hour. And from then on, I was hooked on going out there. And we went out in 2010 and I set another record, but they sent me on for my backup run. They sent me on the wrong track and I was on the wrong track. So they disqualified my record and they never told me. I went down, stripped my motor down and everything. And I lost that one. But in 11, we went back and set another one, and 12 and 14 and 15 and 16, 17, 18, 19, mostly ones of motorcycles that I have built and taken out there and had other people ride them. I have 3 of them that I actually rode, but we have some pretty cool bikes that we built.
So you've been on multiple ends of this.
Yep.
You've built the motorcycle that set records. You've serviced, been down there and repaired motorcycles that have set records. Which aspect is your favorite and which one's the most difficult?
I like them all. The whole package is great. The whole experience, you can't beat it. It's just the feeling you get and the camaraderie of the other racers out there is like no other sport. Everybody helps everybody out and it's great. The whole thing's great. I mean, it's not too great sometimes if you keep burning holes in pistons and you only bring like 2 sets of pistons and you run out of bullets before you get done. But I ran out and drifted and set a record just drifting the last quarter mile.
Obviously, you have a background in motorcycles. You own your own custom shop. But where does this dream start that I want to set a land record? And can you walk us through like start to finish? What does that entail? How do you even go down that path?
I liked racing. And I built a few hill climbers, but the problem with like drag racing and hill climbing or flat tracking, you have to travel all around the country a whole year if you want to be the national champion. I just couldn't afford to do that. I couldn't take off and go all around the country every weekend and do that. I had to work. So when I found out about Bonneville was once a year, I'm like, that's got me all over it. So I started looking at the rules and thinking, man, I can do this. And actually the first 2 bikes we built, the Triumph and the 1941 Knucklehead, were just from parts laying upstairs. The only thing new I bought for the Triumph was tires, 1 set of spokes and a tachometer. Everything else was all pistons. I bought new pistons. And Knucklehead was pretty much the same way. I bought some tires. and a few electrical things to kill buttons and stuff and petcock, but everything else was just used stuff just laying around.
Is there a particular record that means more to you than some of the others? A particular bike that means more to you?
Yeah, there's probably two of them. My knucklehead is great. My 1941 knuckle, you can't ask for anything better than the world's fastest knucklehead. It's that's that's the king. But I also built a panhead um, with some help from the guys from NASCAR that actually go through all the NASCAR engines, make sure they're all equal in power. We got together and both of us put together a panhead motor, and we got out there in assault. And the very first run, we blew away a record, like I don't know, 30-year-old record by 30 miles an hour. And that thing was setting records every year for a long time. And I wasn't riding that. A good friend of mine, Jason Omer from Bellingham, Washington, was riding the bike, and he just recently passed away last year. So, I mean, it was an honor to be working with him, and that worked great. But I really like that bike. That's really cool because that bike made over 300 horsepower, and it was only 1,000 cc's.
So you had mentioned to me, but before we started recording, about how a lot of people involved in NASCAR on their days off as a hobby will race motorcycles. So you've had the opportunity to talk to them, meet them at the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah. And at some point, they kind of recognized that you really knew what you were talking about, and they were coming to you for advice.
Yep.
I don't know of any other way to express how knowledgeable someone is than when other industry professionals, and let's face it, NASCAR is kind of at the top, right? When it comes to speed.
Oh, yeah.
When they start coming to you for advice, that's when you know you've really hit it big time. What was it like to be involved with those guys and help them in their endeavors?
It was really great. At first, for 2 or 3 years, they were coming to me and asking me questions, wanting to help me. And I just blew them off a little bit, just tell them that I believe that power will overcome wind resistance. And a few of my friends told me after the third year, told me that I should really talk to these guys once to see who they are and what they're about. And then they told me that they were in charge of all the streamlining for NASCARs and in charge of making sure all the engines were equal in NASCARs, that they wanted to help me set another record that would stand out for a long time. And of course, oh yeah, I was in. And one of the best things about that was Don was the one fellow's name. I asked him why would you want me? And they told me that I'm not affiliated with no one. I'm not sponsored by any companies. Everything I did was by myself. And he said that they had to be like that way they could help me. And when he was asking me questions about all the specs inside this panhead motor, I knew everything off the top of my head. And I think that just blew his mind more than anything, because everything he asked me, I had to answer within like a millisecond.
You're essentially an encyclopedia of a lot of these motorcycles parts. I mean, you've done it all.
Yes.
Two things I want to still hit on with those land speed records. What I didn't understand until I did some research is that these national land speed records, there's dozens upon dozens of records that can be set for each different classification of motorcycles. Can you explain for those listening, like what does that classification mean?
The 1350 is the cc's of the motorcycle. And basically what I did there was took an old Harley flathead motor flywheels and put them in a knucklehead motor, which boosted the cc's up to actually 13 and a quarter, which got me under the 1350 limit. And the V is for vintage, which is 1955 and earlier. The F is for fuel. That means that, you're not running gasoline, or they don't have to check you. And I would dump a little nitro in with the nitro for gas in it, propylene oxide. I'd dump a little bit of that in there to help me out. And we had a PS or APS2, have a record with that. That is a altered frame, which means I moved foot pegs back, so you're basically laying down on the motorcycle. And the PS was a partially streamlined, which I started doing that because I got a little greedy, because I set one record and I seen a guy tape a Frisbee on the front of a motorcycle, and that put him in a partial streamline class. So I just took a piece of tin and folded it to a V and bolted it on the front so I could get 2 records that year. And that's how that happened.
Found some ways around the rules to make sure you were in the right classification. And
yes.
That's pretty interesting. And the other thing I want to hear from you is that it's a process. I mean, it's a very involved process. You told me about how, when you're driving out to Utah, you got to take everything you could potentially need, spare parts, welding equipment. When you're getting ready to go out there, can you tell me, like, what's all the stuff that you need? And then once out there, what does it look like? What's the process for eventually getting to the front of the line and attempting to set that record?
When I would go out, I would have just a trailer for just a motorcycle, and I had a van. I would have an air compressor, a generator, a welder, just about every socket I would need for every nut and bolt on that motorcycle, and I would have a spare set of heads, spare pistons, spare cylinders, a spare transmission, a spare wheel, some electrical parts, and I had some spares, and basically just enough that I could rebuild the whole motorcycle if it blew up out there. And I would take it out, and we would go out. We would drive out, and it would take 2.5 days to get out there. We get out. The Bonneville Salt Flats is more or less a 200 square mile parking lot. It's all flat, has mountain ranges on each side. And you get out there, you set your pit up, you go through a tech inspection where you have to safety wire your axle nuts and bolts and drain plugs so nothing falls out. They don't want any oil getting on the salt, that's for sure. It's a safety inspection too. If you fall off the bike, it'll shut off. Handlebars got to be tight. You got to have a steering damper so you don't get a death wobble, and you have to tie your kickstand up with a tie wrap when you start it up. But once you get through tech inspection, then you go to a riders meeting, usually on a Sunday morning, and then you start racing on a Sunday afternoon. You get out, you start staging, you go into a staging area, then you go out to the actual salt, and then it's on. You're just sitting there waiting, getting a little bit of anxiety until your time's up. And my stuff's always cool. It's always kickstart. Starts on the first kick every time, and people are looking at you like, oh man, look at this guy on this Harley, this thing. And I get out there, and by the time they're saying something, there's a tie wrap on my kickstand, and I'm going. And it's a lot of the old timers like that too. They always ask me like, what would you do if your bike wouldn't start on the first kick? And I was like, well, I'll probably just clean the points up because I still run them old points on them things. That's funny, but they like that out there.
After that run is over, and you probably have a pretty good idea, I would imagine, whether you came close and hit it. What's that feeling like? Is there a euphoria that rushes over you? What's that like?
You get done your run. The first thing you want to do is go back to the timing window. You want to go back and get your slip to see if you set a record, to see if you have to go do a return run, because you have to back up your record, and then they take the average. And what they're doing there is taking an average speed of both runs, for a complete mile both ways. And that's how they determine whether you got a record or not, in case wind's blowing one way, and that sort of thing. So once you do that and you get through that and you do your return run, you go back to the window again, see if you made it. And then you're good there. And you still got a little bit of anxiety because now you got to go through tech inspection, and they're looking for any little thing they can do to DQ you. I've been lucky so far. They'd always be like, you Harley guys. They want me to take both my cylinders off to make sure one piston ain't bigger than the other. They said he ran in all kind of stuff, but I was always good with that. I didn't have no reason to do anything funny.
So no issues with inspection.
No, pass with flying colors every time.
This isn't always a walk in the park. You mentioned the phrase death wobble. I've seen the videos. It doesn't always end pretty.
No.
Is that part of the adrenaline rush, knowing that something could go wrong?
You're hoping that something doesn't happen. You get out there, and the motorcycle I rode was a hand shift, and they had a special guy out there to watch me. They wanted to know when I took my hand off the handlebar to see when I had a suicide shift and suicide clutch on there, that they were seeing where I shifted, because sometimes get guys out there put big ruts in it. They'll have big high horsepower motorcycles, and it looked like a speedboat going through the salt flying up in the air. It looked like a rooster tail. And you run into a rut like that, you don't know where you're going to wind up at. You could go 20 yards to the left or the right, depends on how you hit it. So they're watching me do that. And first time I found that out, the guy come up to me and said to me, he's like, on mile 5, you hit the 5 mile marker, stay to the right of the track. Don't go in the middle or even to the left. You got to get to the right. And I said, wow, that's funny. That's right where I was shifting the 4th. And then I found out that he was assigned to watch me. The guy's name was Tom Ritt. He still goes out there all the time. That was a pretty cool story.
You told me, even as a kid, I mean, you were hands-on working on motors as young as I know 12 when you first started working
12,
in a
yes.
shop. Yeah.
Yep.
Can you tell me about that start and how you first got interested in motorcycles, automobiles, engines?
Started with bicycles, really. I would be the kid on the block that put the chains back on and fix flat tires. And that progressed when I was 12 years old. I got a job at a shop called, it was Fats Neaters. Believe me, that was his real name. It was a bicycle and motor shop. He had a Swin dealership and he sold lawn motors too. And he basically gave me the knowledge of all the basics. I was so happy to put a motor together. I was happy, and it never stopped. I'm still doing that today. I've done over 2,000 Harley motors in the last 40 years, and it's just crazy. I started there, worked there for 3 years, and I was at Hanover High School, and it came around. Went to Votech, and they had a small engine class there, and they also had auto mechanics, but I wanted to graduate to something a little bit bigger. I could still ride my motorcycles. I had a few of them and go-karts I would drive around. But I went to Votech and went there for 3 years and worked on cars for a little bit. And after I got out of school, I started working on motorcycles again. I got a job at a factory in Hanover, and then I started working on motorcycles on the side. And after a while, in our motorcycle shop, I went to get some parts, and he said, "Why don't you just come up and work for us?" So that was in 1984. And ever since then, that's all I ever did. I got a lot of hours working on motorcycles, a lot of hours in the summertime and even in the winter building bikes, restoring them, doing everything: wheels, engines, transmissions, every part of a motorcycle you think of. Build frames, my own frame jig, generators, carburetors. As a matter of fact, one thing that old Fats taught me, one of the first things was tuning like motors with a screwdriver. You could do it with that. I got really good on tuning carburetors. And at Bonneville, I was a carburetor guy. All the top people in the world. If there's somebody new out there, I always take the Harley jets, S&S carburetor jets, and I take jet drills and solder to make the jets smaller, because the air out there's not much oxygen in the air, and everybody's rich. And when you do that, it's what's called too fat. The bike doesn't get this. You can't develop maximum power like that. So basically, you got to make the jet smaller. And they kind of gave me a pass to tune these other guys' motorcycles. And I made a lot of friends out there just doing that, fixing carburetors for guys. Usually they're watching me with a torch and they're lighting up some torch and putting some solder in their jet and running another drill in it. And they say, "You sure know what you're doing?" I said, "Yeah, man." And they come back and they're happy as hell. I still get cases of beer and Christmas cards and stuff from these guys out there all the time.
This isn't like sometimes you watch a NASCAR race and there's a wreck, and after the race you see some fisticuffs
Yeah.
in the garage, but this isn't like that. This sounds like it's more of a fraternity almost.
Yes, it is. The camaraderie out there is great. There's people out there they make lifelong friends out there. I have people that they've been my friends for, I don't know, 15, 20 years, just from racing motorcycles and out there especially. We're tight. I belong to like a little group of us called Sodium Distortion. We have a lift out there, and we have a setup for any racer that has problems. Some run guys, and if they have problems, we'll either get their bike through tech inspection, or we'll fix their bike at the salt. In the meantime, while we're still racing our own motorcycles. So that's pretty much the way it is. Everybody's out there. You want to help each other out.
We haven't touched much on your business. I want to go back to your high school days, though. It looks to me, when I look at your transcript, that whether you realized it or not, you were kind of being set up for business ownership. I just want to read some of the courses you took here. We have metric math, mechanical drafting, auto mechanics 1, 2, and 3, economics, and business math. I mean, that looks like a course load of someone who's going to own a future company.
Yeah, I had a clue.
Was that by design? Did you purposefully take some of those courses because you
Yes.
had a motorcycle shop in your
Well,
future?
I knew I wanted to be in business for myself, whether it was motorcycles or not. At that time, I probably didn't know, but I wanted to lay the groundwork because I was going to hit the ground running. And I'll tell you, we had some great teachers here at Tech. The guys I had was Mike Gertison in my sophomore year, Fred Allison my junior year, and Clyde Keeney my senior year. They're all gone now, but they were great and really instrumental in teaching me everything I know today. I owe them really everything. Them and old Fats Neater, them guys, the guys that taught me are the ones I respect most in my life.
Can you give the listeners an idea of exactly what you do at Cafes Custom Cycles, some of the projects you work on? what's your clientele? Are you building choppers from the ground up? Talk to me a little bit about your specialty there at cafes.
I think mostly what I really like to do, I like to build I like to build engines and restore motorcycles. We do some really cool bikes over the years. Um, this year I have a bike coming in from World War II. It's a 1942 ULA. It was in Africa during World War II. And when the African campaign was over, they shipped the bike to England. And then that motorcycle, it had a sidecar on it too. They helped the British and the Americans get ready for D-Day. Well, that bike got shipped back over here and sat for 60 years in the garage. And a friend of mine bought it and he brought it to me. And I'm starting to do the restoration on that. We're going to put it back to its same glory as it when it went to Africa in 1942. So stuff like that, I really like doing that kind of stuff. I do a lot of 100-point antique motorcycle club restorations. I'm pretty high up in that in doing them. I did a ton of them motorcycles. I like doing that, and we work on new bikes too. I'm the old man in the game, and it's every shop around pretty much. I help them all out. So
You told me off air that you've worked on bikes as old as 1900s to modern day. I mean, that's got to take such a wide swath of knowledge in order to work on all those different types of bikes.
in one respect, they're still all the same. It goes back to the basics. Everything's all the same. And some things, if you work on enough brands, you know how the engineers think or how they got to where they are now just by their engineering on how things were assembled or manufactured. It's kind of weird how that works, but once you get the gist of it, you can figure anything out.
Has there ever been a real problem child, like a project that you just could not figure out or you feel really good about overcoming?
That's where I excel. I might have, yes, I have ones that, I beat my head against the wall, but I never had one get away from me because I fix it. It doesn't matter. I'm going to fix it.
What about parts? Like, I can't imagine parts are readily available for some of these. Do you have to manufacture some of those yourself?
Some things I have to make, and I have an extensive list of people that make parts and, a lot of stuff. I think you could probably make a 1903 Harley right now if you wanted to, buying parts. There's a couple guys down in Texas making a lot of things, and in, believe it or not, South Dakota. You can get parts. If you want it, it can be had.
I would imagine that in today's age, it might be a little bit easier with the advent of eBay or other
Yes.
used parts sites. But even beyond that, I mean, you've got skills that sort of transcend the program you took here at York Tech. You were automotive mechanics, right?
Yes.
But you've told me, obviously welding's a big part of
Yes.
what you do. How do you acquire those skills over the years? It's simply just trial and error?
Um, yes. And sometimes somebody will come in and say, "Hey, look, I'll show you how to do this," or I'll buy a boring bar, for instance, and they'll, I will use somebody else's, but I'll have to make the table to make that work. So I'm pretty good at reading and going by the book and figuring it out.
Yeah, nothing like those early 1900s instruction manuals, right?
Well,
I'm sure those are pretty detailed. Where do you even find something like that?
a lot of the old guys are gone and they had them stashed, and I'll usually buy them if I don't get them at their auctions, their wives or surviving members of their family will get a hold of me and ask me. A lot of them, they'll either give them to me or sell them to me because they know that I'm going to put them to good use.
I can't imagine too many people have the forethought to buy old motorcycle service and parts manuals before you even need it. But I guess in your line of business, that's almost a must, right?
Yep, I have to have it. I have a library, and then I have a secret library too of the real old stuff that I want to keep that and don't even want anybody in. I don't want no fingerprints getting on it or anything like that.
Some of those documents over the years that tend to get brittle and could be
Yes.
damaged
Yeah,
easily, right?
yeah, you fold the page and the page will break or crack. You have to be careful with some of the old stuff.
Going back to your time at York Tech, you mentioned you really enjoyed your time here. Are there any interesting stories or humorous stories that you can share with us about your
Oh
time at
no,
York Tech?
I ain't doing that. But I had a good time here at this school. The academics, I went to school every day. I loved it. I loved the people here. The teachers were great. The shop classes were great, and I owe a lot to Tech. This is a really good school. I think it's the best kept secret in York County, and I'm glad to see how big it's gotten. And this is definitely better than even going to college because you don't have no debt when you get out of school. You can hit the ground running. And I mean, I've seen guys coming out of here now in the last 10 years that are making bank, and they're consultants. They're already at the top of their industry when they're 25 years old. That's crazy, but it's good.
You shared that you still want to try and set some new land speed records, but beyond that, what are your future plans?
Yeah, I'm going to go back out to Bonneville. I want to have 3 decades that I set records in out there because every year I go out, I always set a record every year, and I got to go out again at least once or twice to go out and then meet some friends in the race again. But I think I'm going to retire. I did very well working on motorcycles, and I've got some rental properties, but I'm still going to keep my shop open and just really cherry pick stuff and probably just restore motorcycles and build engines and try to slow down a little bit because the volume of business that goes through my shop is too much. Maybe I could find somebody, a young guy coming out of school, might want to come learn to take over the business. I'm open. I'm open for that. I don't have any sons. My daughter, she just looks at motorcycles and
Not interested.
No, she likes them, but not like that. No.
All right, so Ron, another thing that you've told me about is Daytona Bike Week. You've had some interesting experiences there. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, in the mid '90s, I built a lot of show bikes for people going to Daytona every year. And I had one customer I helped build a bike, and we actually won the Rat's Hole contest. That's the biggest custom motorcycle show in the world, and we won that in '93 or '94. The customer's name was Jerry W. I'm going to say that because I cannot pronounce his last name. I never could, and that's what I always called him. That's another accomplishment. And I had a few other ones that went down there. I had another one that we took there in probably 2014, and I think I got third place.
Your career's taken you all over, from record setting to working on just about every motorcycle imaginable. The one story that stood out to me, though, is that you do have some Hollywood connections.
Oh yeah,
as part of your motorcycle building career. Can you tell us about that?
yes. Back in probably '88 or '89, I got asked if I could build an electric start K model, which is basically for a flathead Sportster that they only made a few years, and electric start didn't come out on these until 10 years after they went out of production for a movie that was going to be filmed in Baltimore. And I said, sure, I can do that. And they drug their feet for about a year. And every now and then they would ask me if I would still build this motorcycle for them. And I told them yes. And they came up one day, brought me a truckload of parts and said, we need this in 2 weeks. I'm like, oh no. So it's very involved to make something electric start that never had it before. But I'm like, okay, no problem. So I took him and basically made the motorcycle for Crybaby that starred Johnny Depp. He rode the motorcycle, and I built that motorcycle in 2 weeks, working 17-hour days. And I guess the bonus was I got to go down on the set. It was at an old prison down close to Baltimore, and I got to meet Tracy Lords. I liked her. That was pretty cool. and Johnny Depp. And I stayed down there for 2 days, and the rest of the time they were shooting, they had it because all you had to do is push the button and go. And that was an accomplishment. And if you see the movie, that's the motorcycle was on there, and even the trailer it has on it. It's kind of funny looking because it shows him kickstarting this motorcycle, and you can see the electric starter on it. They're showing it next to his boot. You can see the starter. So I know that was mine. There was a couple other ones built for that movie too. They had a prop bike for the movie poster, and he had one that they wrecked, and he had another one that was lit on fire. But the one that was on fire, that was a Honda or something that they just poured gas all over and lit it up. That was pretty cool. And then I got to meet Johnny Depp afterwards. He came to the shop and wanted to thank me for he heard the story about, how long I just had to bang this thing together, which I did. And it's still together today and still running today. and thanked me for that. And I was young back then. I'm trying to sell him a motorcycle, and he just wanted to thank me and get the heck out of there. But his bodyguards were pretty cool. They were interested in some of the bikes that were around. They were checking them out. But
And that was pretty early in his career. I mean, he was still a mid-20s
yeah,
then.
he was young. He just got done that 21 Jump Street. That was his first movie, Crybaby.
I can only imagine having a career like yours and being able to look back on it between Hollywood equipment, stuff that's been featured in major motion pictures, setting multiple land speed records. I think you said 8.
8, yep.
Either working on the bikes or doing the riding yourself. Still at least one that where you were riding the bike still stands today.
Yep.
And just how many motorcycles you've touched. I mean, thousands. I mean, that's just incredible. So, Ron, I really appreciate you being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to know more about your story. Before I let you go, though, if anyone is in need of your services, where can they find out more information about Cafe's Custom Cycles?
You can come to Cafe's Custom Cycles. I'm at 2630 Hunterstown, Hampton Road in New Oxford, PA. The phone number is 717-624-7820, and I'm on Facebook too. You can message me there, and I'll try to help you the best I can. Thank you.
There you have it. If you want your motorcycle built by a record holder, Ron's the one you got to see. So, Ron, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming out, and wish you nothing but the best in the future.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Inside York Tech. Catch all future episodes by visiting ycst.info/podcast.